Your grandmother fed a family of 6 on what you spend on a single Starbucks latte in the 1960s while you were complaining about having nothing to eat. Working families were turning ketchup into pasta sauce, crackers into pizza crust, and mystery canned meat into gourmet sandwiches. These 100 forgotten dinners reveal the shocking truth about how America really ate, and you'll never look at your overpriced takeout the same way again. Monkey meat sandwiches. Picture this, a can of corned beef, the metal lid giving that satisfying plink as you pop it open. You'd mash the salty pink meat with a big spoonful of mayonnaise for creaminess and a squirt of yellow mustard for tangy zip. Spread it thick between 2 slices of soft white Wonder Bread, the kind that's squished in your hand. Sometimes a slice of dill pickle or handful of potato chips went on the side, adding sour crunch or salty snap. No cooking, no fuss, just a sandwich that came together in minutes. Moms loved it for its speed. Kids loved it for its taste. It often showed up in lunch boxes tucked next to an apple and thermos of milk, fueling kids through schoolyard games. The name, maybe a playful trick to get picky eaters to bite, or a nod to the mystery of canned meat. Nobody asked too many questions back then. Corned beef was a holdover from World War II when it fed soldiers and civilians during rationing. Post-war, it stuck around, cheap, shelf-stable, ready to go. For 69 cents, you could feed the whole family something that actually tasted good, transforming mystery meat into comfort food that satisfied hungry bellies when budgets were tight and time was precious. Garbage plate casserole. The garbage plate hails from Rochester, New York, born at Nicktahu Hots, a greasy spoon diner where late-night crowds devoured its chaotic glory. Macaroni salad, home fries, burger patties, all drowned in meat sauce, onions, and mustard. In the 1960s, home cooks took this wild plate and tamed it into a garbage plate casserole, a one-dish wonder for families watching every dime. It was the ultimate fridge cleaner, turning odds and ends into dinner. You'd start with a base of cooked macaroni or leftover potatoes, then pile on whatever protein you had. Ground beef, sliced hot dogs, maybe some bacon bits. Toss in beans, a wilting carrot, or that half onion hiding in the crisper. Mix it all with a can of tomato sauce or gravy if you had it, spread it in a dish, and bake till it bubbled. A squiggle of ketchup or hot sauce on top gave it that diner kick. Some sprinkled cheese or crushed crackers for a golden crust, but it wasn't fussy. Every family did it their way. The name was rough, but the taste was home. This dish laughed at recipes and thrived on what you had, feeding big families on small budgets with pure kitchen creativity and love. Mayo and mustard spaghetti. Mayo and mustard spaghetti sounds like a kitchen mishap, but in the 1960s it was a budget-friendly lifesaver. Boil a pot of spaghetti. Those long, thin strands were pennies a pound. Drain it hot and toss it with a few tablespoons of mayonnaise and a generous squirt of yellow mustard. A splash of vinegar or pinch of salt and pepper jazzed it up. Feeling fancy? Add canned peas or diced ham from a tin. The combo was odd, but magic. Mayo's creamy richness hugged the noodles, while mustard's tang sliced through, keeping it lively. This dish thrived on lean nights when the fridge was bare and payday was days away. Pasta was a staple, mayo and mustard didn't spoil, and together they made a meal in under 15 minutes. It wasn't gourmet, but it stuck to your ribs, a secret weapon for tired parents. Kids slurped it up, the slippery noodles a fun mess on their plates. Picture a college kid in a dim apartment, water boiling on a hot plate. Dinner, he mutters, draining noodles and squirting ketchup from a glass bottle, stirring till it coats every curl. His roommate stumbles in. That again? They laugh, eating straight from the pot, the sweet tang waking tired tongues. It's basic, noodles, sauce, but it's a 60s snapshot of thrift and taste in every bite. Egg sauce on saltines. Egg sauce on saltines was a 1960s comfort dish for when the pantry was down to basics. It's a simple setup, a creamy white sauce made with butter melted in a pan, flour whisked in to make a roux, then milk stirred until thick, mixed with chopped hard-boiled eggs, Pour that over a stack of saltine crackers and you've got dinner. Salt and pepper were musts. Maybe a dash of paprika if you had it. The eggs gave it body, the crackers a crisp base that softened under the warm sauce. This was a go-to for meatless Fridays or when funds ran low. Eggs were cheap, crackers were always around, and butter stretched far. It was also a clever way to use up Easter eggs, their yolks crumbling into the sauce days after the hunt. The flavor was gentle, a hug on a plate, perfect for sick days or quiet evenings. Families savored its thrift, a reminder that humble ingredients could shine. Imagine a grandma in her kitchen, floral apron tied over a house dress, the stove's glow lighting her face. She melts butter, the sizzle filling the air, and stirs in flour with a wooden spoon worn smooth from years of use. Milk glugs from a bottle, thickening as she hums an old hymn. She chops eggs hard-boiled from Sunday and folds them in, the sauce turning velvety. Saltines crackle as she piles them on a plate, the sauce cascading over, softening the edges. Slumgullion. Slumgullion's roots stretch back to the gold rush, a hobo stew of whatever scraps could be scrounged. By the 1960s, it was a family staple: ground beef, macaroni, canned tomatoes, and onions simmered in one pot. No beef? Hot dogs or tuna worked. No macaroni, rice, or potatoes stepped in. Tomatoes could be fresh, canned, or a desperate squirt of ketchup. It was a free-for-all, a dish that laughed at recipes and thrived on what you had. Cheap and hearty, Slumgullion fed big families on small budgets. The name, maybe from slum stew and gullion for mud, was rough, but the taste was home. It bubbled on stoves in cramped kitchens, the steam carrying beefy, tomatoey goodness through the house. Every spoonful was a mix of textures: soft pasta, tender meat, chunky veggies, a meal that stuck with you. Picture a working mother after a long day, tossing whatever she could find into a pot. Ground beef browns, onions soften, tomatoes break down into sauce. She adds cooked macaroni, lets it all simmer together until the flavors meld. The kitchen fills with savory aromas as her children gather around the table, eager for this one-pot wonder that somehow always tasted like love, no matter how humble the ingredients. It was survival cooking at its finest, proving that creativity mattered more than a well-stocked pantry. City chicken. City chicken sounds like poultry, but it's a 1960s trick: pork or veal cubes skewered, breaded, and fried to mimic drumsticks. Chicken was pricey in urban areas back then, a luxury for Sunday dinners, while pork was the working man's meat. So families got crafty, cut the meat into chunks, thread it onto wooden skewers, dip it in egg, roll it in breadcrumbs, sometimes spiced with paprika or garlic, and fry it golden. Baked versions worked too, but frying gave that crisp, chicken-like crunch. Serve it with mashed potatoes and gravy, and you had a feast that felt upscale. This dish was a Depression-era holdover, still popular in the 60s for its thrift and flair. Kids loved the drumsticks, gnawing them like real chicken legs, while parents appreciated the savings. The pork stayed juicy inside its crunchy shell, a clever disguise that fooled no one but delighted everyone. Picture a Sunday dinner where the family gathers around the table, each person getting their own drumstick to hold and eat. Dad carves into his with a fork and knife, the golden coating crackling to reveal tender, seasoned meat inside. Better than chicken, Mom declares, and everyone nods, savoring this economical creation that transformed cheap cuts into something special. It was urban ingenuity at its best, proving that with a little creativity, working families could enjoy meals that felt like celebrations. Hoosier Pie Supper. Hoosier pie is Indiana's claim to fame, usually a sweet sugar cream pie with cream, sugar, and nutmeg in a flaky crust. But for supper in the 60s, families flipped it savory, stuffing it with cheese, ham, or leftover veggies. The crust was still that lard-rich classic, rolled thin and baked crisp, but the filling turned hearty. Shredded cheddar, diced ham from a can, maybe some peas or carrots. It was a Midwestern twist, turning dessert into dinner when money was tight. right. This pie was a potluck star or a quick fix for drop-in guests. It used what was on hand, pantry staples and fridge scrap baked into something warm and filling. The crust flaked apart. The filling oozed, blending salty and savory in every bite. A sprinkle of herbs or a dash of hot sauce might sneak in, depending on the cook's taste and what they had in their spice rack. Picture a farm wife pulling this golden creation from her oven. The kitchen filled with the aroma of buttery crust and melted cheese. Her husband peers over her shoulder. "What's for supper, honey?" "Hoosier pie with a twist," she says, cutting into the flaky pastry to reveal the colorful filling inside. The family gathers around the kitchen table, each slice revealing layers of cheese, ham, and vegetables bound together in that perfect tender crust. It was comfort food that honored both tradition and necessity. Soured corn soup. Soured corn soup was a farmstead gem, a tangy bowl of comfort from the 60s. It started with corn, fresh in summer, then preserved by fermenting slightly for winter. That sour edge was the magic, giving the soup a zesty kick that no fresh corn could match. Simmer it with milk, a pat of butter, and a pinch of salt, and you had a creamy soup with character. Some tossed in bacon for smokiness or potatoes for heft, stretching it further. It was a way to use every ear, even the ones past their prime. This dish was pure thrift, a holdover from leaner times when wasting food wasn't an option. The fermentation came from rural know-how. Let the corn sit just long enough and it turned sharp, perfect for soup. Served hot with a dollop of sour cream or a scatter of chives, it warmed you through, a taste of the harvest, saved for gray days. Picture a farmer's wife ladling steaming bowls while snow falls outside. The kitchen is humid with corn's essence, transformed by time and wisdom into something better than fresh. Soup from nothing, her husband might say, but she knows better. This is soup from everything: summer's bounty, winter's patience, and the knowledge that nothing should ever go to waste. Each spoonful carries the tang of preservation and the comfort of home. Shrimp Wiggle. Shrimp Wiggle was a playful 60s dish, shrimp and peas in a cream sauce spooned over toast or biscuits. Canned shrimp was the key, affordable even for tight budgets, a little luxury that didn't break the bank. You'd heat it with peas and a white sauce made from butter, flour, and milk, thick and smooth, seasoned with salt, pepper, maybe a pinch of nutmeg. Pour it over crispy toast points or a split biscuit, and it looked downright elegant, a pink and green medley in velvety white. It was a Sunday supper favorite or a dish for when company knocked unexpectedly. The name made kids giggle, but the taste won them over. Shrimp's briny pop, peas' sweet burst, all wrapped in creamy comfort. It stretched a small can to feed a family, proof you could impress without excess. Picture a mother carefully arranging toast points on her best plates, ladling the colorful mixture over each serving with practiced precision. "What's this called again?" her daughter asks. "Shrimp Wiggle," Mom replies with a smile, watching as the family digs in, the sauce soaking the bread, the shrimp tender, and the peas bright. "Not bad for a dime's worth," her husband says, and they all nod, forks scraping against china. It's humble but special, a little wiggle of joy in a tough week when small luxuries made all the difference. Sweet potato scrapple. Sweet potato scrapple took the Pennsylvania Dutch classic, pork scraps and cornmeal, and gave it a southern twist with mashed sweet potatoes. In the 60s, it was a budget beauty that transformed humble ingredients into something extraordinary. Cook the pork bits, think trimmings or neck bones, mix with cornmeal and sweet potato mash, season with salt and pepper, then form into loaves. Chill it, slice it, and fry it crisp. The sweet potatoes added a sugary depth to the savory pork, creating a golden crust that hit a soft, orange-flecked center. Drizzle it with syrup or serve with applesauce, and it danced between breakfast and dinner. This was nose-to-tail eating, nothing wasted, everything savored. In the South, sweet potatoes were cheap and plentiful, making this a natural fit. It was hearty enough for a cold morning or a light supper, the frying pan sizzle a promise of something good. Picture a southern kitchen where the cast iron skillet holds thick slices of scrapple, edges browning and crisping, while the sweet potato interior stays creamy. The aroma fills the house, porky, sweet, with hints of cornmeal and spice. Family members gather around the table, cutting into their portions to reveal the beautiful orange interior marbled with bits of meat. Better than bacon, someone declares, and everyone agrees, savoring this unique creation that turns scraps into a feast worthy of any table. Floating Island Dinner. Floating Island Dinner flipped the dessert classic, meringue on custard, into a savory 60s supper. Whip egg whites, stiff, poach them in a simmering broth, chicken, vegetable, or just bouillon, and watch them puff into fluffy islands. Serve them over rice or noodles, the broth soaking in, maybe with a sprinkle of parsley or a dash of vinegar for zip. It was light, cheap, and leaned on eggs for protein when meat was scarce, perfect for hot summer nights when heavy food felt wrong. Families stretched it with whatever was around, leftover vegetables, a bit of ham, making it a catch-all for odds and ends. The egg whites floated like clouds, delicate and airy, a gentle contrast to the hearty broth underneath. Picture a mother on a sweltering August evening, not wanting to heat up the kitchen too much. She whips egg whites in a cool bowl while broth barely simmers on the stove. The whites puff as they hit the warm liquid, creating little clouds that bob on the surface. She ladles them over bowls of rice, the golden broth pooling around the white islands. "What's for dinner?" her children ask. "Floating islands," she replies, serving up something that feels magical despite its simplicity. It's protein for pennies, turning breakfast ingredients into dinner when the budget demanded creativity over convention, proving that elegance could come from the most unexpected places. Corn Dodgers. Corn Dodgers were 60s cornbread balls, a southern staple from pioneer days that never went out of style. Mix cornmeal, water, salt, maybe a pinch of sugar, form into patties or logs, and fry or bake them golden. They were cheap as dirt, stretching a sack of cornmeal into a side for beans, greens, or gravy. Kids loved their handheld size, dunking them in soup or molasses, the crisp outside giving way to a fluffy core. These were born from necessity. Corn was king in the South, and Dodgers kept hunger at bay. In the 60s, they paired with chili or stew, soaking up juices like edible sponges. Over a fire or in a skillet, they cooked fast, their toasty aroma calling families to the table. Picture a southern kitchen where the cast iron skillet holds rounds of cornmeal batter, sizzling as they turn golden brown. The smell of toasted corn fills the air, while a pot of beans bubbles nearby. Children gather around, knowing these humble Dodgers will make their simple meal feel complete. "Hot Dodgers coming up," Mom calls, flipping each one with practiced ease. They pile them in a basket lined with a checkered towel, the warmth radiating through the cloth. Simple ingredients, maximum impact, the essence of survival cooking done right, proving that the most basic foods could bring the greatest satisfaction when made with love and served with pride. Wesson Oil Potato Sizzler. Wesson Oil Potato Sizzler turned humble spuds into 60s gold. Slice potatoes thin, russets or whatever was in the sack, fry them in Wesson oil till they hissed and crisped, then dust with salt, pepper, maybe paprika or onion powder if you had it. Cheap and sizzling, they were a side for any meal or a main dish when meat was off the table. The oil, a pantry must, gave them a glossy sheen, the edges curling golden, the insides soft but firm. Potatoes were dirt cheap, and this dish made them sing, crisp enough to crunch, hearty enough to satisfy. It was a meatless marvel for Fridays or a quick fix when the kids begged for snacks. The frying filled the house with a warm, oily scent, a promise of something hot and good. Picture a mom at the stove, skillet popping with potatoes flipping in hot oil. "Sizzler's coming up," her daughter calls, sneaking closer to the delicious smells. "Sizzler's coming up," Mom says, piling them on a plate as steam rises. The family crowds the kitchen table, fingers shiny with oil, grabbing slices still hot enough to sting. Better than fries, Dad declares, sprinkling extra salt. They eat fast, the crunch loud, the centers tender, a simple trick that turned a humble tuber into a treat. It's not much. Potatoes, oil, heat, but it's a 60s kitchen symphony, proof that little could be plenty. Pea fritters. Pea fritters turned canned peas into 60s gold, mash them with flour, egg, and salt, then fry into crispy patties. The peas, a pantry staple, burst with green flavor inside a golden crust, soft yet firm. Serve them with ketchup, gravy, or sour cream, and they were a veggie hit even picky eaters couldn't resist. A pinch of pepper or onion powder might spice them up, depending on the cook's imagination and spice rack contents. Cheap and quick, they made peas fun, perfect for meatless days or as a side to stretch a meal. The frying pan popped with oil, the fritters sizzling into shape, their earthy scent pulling kids to the kitchen. It was thrift with a twist, turning a humble can into something special that brought families together around the stove. Picture a dad at the burner flipping fritters while oil snaps and pops. Pea pancakes, his daughter asks, peering up at the golden rounds. Better, he grins, sliding one onto a plate with a ketchup swirl. She bites in, the crust cracking to reveal the peas, sweet and warm inside their crispy shell. More, she demands, and he laughs, frying another batch as the family crowds the table. Fritters pile high, everyone dipping and munching, the green flecks bright against the brown crust. Sneaky veggies, Mom whispers, and they all nod, hands greasy, smiles wide. It's simple, peas, flour, heat, but it's clever, a 60s trick to feed and please. Cabbage pudding. Cabbage pudding was a 60s winter warmer, transforming humble cabbage into something resembling a savory custard. Cook cabbage down with onions till soft. Mix with breadcrumbs, milk or cream, and maybe some cheese, then bake till set. The cabbage turned tender, the top golden, hiding a soft center with just a hint of crunch. Salt and pepper were key, with a bit of bacon grease or nutmeg sneaking in for depth. It was a garden bounty saver, cheap when cabbage was plentiful, hearty when fresh veggies faded. Families loved its warmth, a cozy shield against cold nights that stretched a head of cabbage into a meal for everyone. Picture a farmhouse kitchen where a casserole dish emerges from the oven, the top beautifully browned and the edges bubbling. The aroma of cooked cabbage and cream fills the air, somehow transformed from ordinary to extraordinary through the magic of patient cooking. A mother cuts into the pudding, revealing layers of tender cabbage bound together with creamy custard. What is it? The children ask, suspicious of anything involving cabbage. Pudding, she says simply, serving generous portions that disappear faster than anyone expected. It's proof that even the most humble vegetables could become the star of dinner when treated with respect and a little kitchen wisdom. The dish transforms skeptics into believers, one creamy, satisfying bite at a time. Ketchup and egg noodles. Ketchup and egg noodles was the ultimate 60s quick fix. Boil wide egg noodles, toss them with ketchup, and call it dinner. Add butter for richness or cheese for goo, but the core was simple. Noodles and that sweet, tangy red sauce kids craved. It slurped beautifully, coating every curl with glossy brightness. This was a last resort meal when the fridge echoed or a late night bite after overtime. Ketchup was king in the 60s, versatile, long lasting, and this dish turned it into a star, not healthy, but it filled bellies fast when nothing else was available. Picture a college kid in a dim apartment, water boiling on a hot plate. Dinner, he mutters, draining noodles and squirting ketchup from a glass bottle, stirring till it coats every strand. His roommate stumbles in. That again? They laugh, eating straight from the pot, the noodles sticky and bright red. Poor man's pasta, he shrugs, and they shovel it down, the sweet tang waking tired tongues. Back home, a mom might serve it to her brood, butter melting in. "Quick supper," she calls, watching them twirl forks as ketchup smears their chins in messy, happy chaos. It's basic, noodles, sauce, but it's a 60s snapshot of thrift and taste in every bite, proving that sometimes the simplest combinations created the most satisfying meals when budgets were tight and time was precious. Cornflake tuna bake. Cornflake tuna bake was a 60s casserole classic that combined canned tuna, cream of mushroom soup, and a crunchy cornflake topping into something greater than its parts. Mix tuna and soup with maybe some peas or celery. Spread it in a dish. Top with crushed cornflakes mixed with butter, and bake till golden. The flakes crisped up, contrasting the creamy, fishy filling, a texture party in every scoop. It was a church supper staple or a weeknight go-to, cheap, easy, and preparable ahead. Tuna tins were pennies, soup cans were ubiquitous, and cornflakes added flair without cost. Families loved the crunch, kids loved the mild taste that didn't challenge their palates. Imagine a mom in a checkered apron sliding a casserole into the oven, cornflakes crackling as they brown. "Tuna night," her daughter asks, peeking at the bubbling dish. "With a twist," Mom says, tapping the crispy top with pride. The kitchen smells of warm soup and fish, comforting and familiar. The table is set with mismatched plates, everyone gathering for this humble feast. "Dig in," Dad calls, scooping a steaming pile onto his plate. They eat with appreciation, the flakes snapping between their teeth, the tuna soft and creamy underneath. "Potluck tomorrow," Mom notes. "This will go fast. It's not fancy, just cans and cereal. But it's 60s comfort food at its finest. A warm square of home. Breaded pig's feet." Breaded pig's feet represented nose-to-tail 60s eating at its most economical. Pig feet were cleaned, boiled tender, coated in egg and crumbs, then fried till golden. The meat was gelatinous inside a crunchy shell, rich, sticky bites that satisfied completely despite their humble origins. Serve with potatoes or sauerkraut for a hearty, cheap feast that felt substantial. The breading added snap to meat that might otherwise seem foreign to modern palates. Nothing wasted. That was the ethos of the time. Pig's feet were dirt cheap, a butcher's leftover transformed into treasure through patience and technique. It was a dish for those who knew how to stretch every dollar, a working-class badge of honor. Picture a butcher's family kitchen, thick with frying oil's haze. "Pig's feet tonight," Dad announces, flipping them in the pan as crumbs sizzle and pop. His son wrinkles his nose at the unusual sight. "Feet? Best part," Dad insists, plating them as steam curls upward. They sit around the table, the crust breaking under their forks to reveal the meltingly soft meat inside. "Tastes like work paid off," Mom says, adding sauerkraut's tangy contrast. They eat with appreciation, the richness filling them completely. Outside, the city hums with life, but here it's quiet pride in every bite, a 60s lesson in making much from little, proving that with skill and determination, even the most humble ingredients could become a feast. Potato pancakes. Potato pancakes brought Eastern European heritage to 60s American tables. Great potatoes, mix with egg and flour, fry crisp and golden, soft inside, crunchy outside. They paired perfectly with sour cream or applesauce, balancing savory and sweet in every bite. A few spuds stretched far, feeding a family for pennies while delivering satisfying substance. They were holiday treats or everyday fillers, their sizzle becoming a familiar kitchen anthem. Potatoes were cheap and abundant, and frying made them feel special, a taste of heritage for immigrant families adapting to American life. Picture Grandma in a steamy kitchen, hands steady on the grater as potato shreds pile up. "Pancakes?" her grandson asks, sniffing the air filled with the aroma of hot oil and browning potatoes. "Hot ones," she says, dropping batter into the pan as edges crisp fast. She stacks them high on a warm plate, dolloping sour cream on top. The scent is earthy and comforting, like memories of the old country mixed with new world possibilities. They sit together at the kitchen table, cutting into the crispy exteriors to reveal fluffy, tender centers. Best supper, he declares through a mouthful, and she smiles, the pan still popping with the next batch. It's simple: spuds, egg, heat. But it's love made edible, a 60s bridge to roots and full bellies that honored both tradition and practicality. Cracker crust pizza. Cracker crust pizza was a 60s pizza hack that brought Italian-American flavors to budget-conscious families. Saltines laid out as a crust, topped with sauce, cheese, maybe pepperoni or olives, then baked till the cheese bubbled into a crunchy, unconventional pie. Pizza was hot in the 60s, but delivery wasn't cheap or widely available. This let families join the craze with pantry staples, creating their own version of the trending food. It was a kid-friendly project where everyone picked toppings, making dinner into a game. The crackers crisped up while the sauce sank in, a quirky take that still satisfied pizza cravings on a dime. Picture a Saturday night where mom and kids gather at the counter, saltines spread carefully on a tray. "My pizza!" a son yells, piling cheese high while his sister adds ham scraps from the fridge. "Bake it," mom says, sliding it into the oven as they all hover around, waiting for the cheese to melt and bubble. The kitchen smells of tomatoes and melting cheddar, the crackers toasting below. "Ours is better," Dad brags, cutting squares as the crust snaps satisfyingly. They eat laughing at the unconventional creation, the saltines holding up better than expected. It's not pizzeria quality, just crackers and cans, but it's fun. Family bonding over this thrifty twist on a trend that proved creativity could beat expensive delivery